I have a bit of a new situation that I've never dealt with before. We are not off to a good start today. Good morning, everyone. It's Doug the Dog Guy, owner and founder of Bad to the Bone Pet Care, and I'm getting ready to head to the airport right now to fly up to Atlanta, and I'm going to be picking up two Xolos, two of the really cute Mexican hairless dogs, and I'm going to be transporting them all the way out to San Jose, California over the next few days. And I'm going to bring you guys along with me. I'm going to show you all of the cool places that we stop to get photos, all of the weird, unique things that we find as we drive across the country. And I have posted a lot of videos here on the channel previously showing you my long-distance pet transportation service. And I've received a lot of questions about how I do this, how you can get started doing this, and my tips and recommendations to other people that offer long-distance pet transportation. So in this vlog, I am going to answer all of your questions. So come along with me. Okay, I made it to Atlanta, and I'm about to get on the MARTA train and go downtown to pick up the dogs, and I'll catch up with you guys once I have them. Okay, I'm here with Miss Daisha and Miss Chili. I've been here for a few minutes and we're getting acquainted to each other. I'm just letting the dogs get used to me, and I'm learning about their routine and all of their quirks and everything that I need to know. And then we will get the car loaded up and I will be on the road here before long. I think this is going to be a really awesome journey with these guys. I love them already. All right, guys, we've been on the road for about an hour and a half, and we are at our first stop here at the world's largest office chair in Anniston, Alabama. This is one of my favorite things about doing these long-distance pet transportation gigs is getting to see just weird roadside attractions like this. It was super cool. I took the dogs out and walked them around, and they've been doing great in the car so far. I hung out with them for about an hour at their house before we got on the road so they could really get acquainted to me and get comfortable. And they've just been sleeping so far, so we're doing really well. We drove about 45 minutes past the world's largest office chair, and now we're at the replica of the Statue of Liberty outside of Birmingham. We've been walking around here for a few minutes, and the dogs are just doing great so far, so I'm really happy. And I thought this would be a good chance to tell you guys about how I plan my routes and how I find cool places like this to stop along the way. So before I get on the road, I always go to roadtrippers.com, and what I do is I just put in my start point and then my end destination, and I just scroll along their map and see what will be good places to take the dogs out. I'm really looking for mainly like historical landmarks and monuments, statues, cool parks, and things like that along the way. And I know that I'm going to be doing at least 8 hours of driving each day, typically no more than 12 hours of driving each day. And I try to pick spots every hour to 2 hours along the route to get a quick stretch of the legs and a potty break for the dogs. And I put it all on a Word document, and I send this document with my actual estimate to the client. And I do this before it's even booked. That way they can truly see the exact route we will be taking, and they can see that it's not just a to B transport gig, that it's actually going to be a true experience for the dogs, and that I know where to stop, and that they're going to get really cool, fun photos of their dogs and all of that. We just got checked into a Comfort Inn in Forest City, Arkansas, which means that we've done a little over 6 hours of driving, about 450 something miles today. I had originally planned to stop in Memphis, but when we got to Memphis, the dogs were still doing great in their crate, and I still had plenty of energy, so we just kept trucking for about another hour to get to Forest City here. And the hotel is perfect, even though it's not the cleanest, I will say that. It's perfect because it has this really nice park area for me to like sit with the dogs and spend some time with them outside and make sure they get a good walk this evening and again tomorrow morning before we head out. And the hotel is one that we can drive the car right up to without having to take the dogs down a hallway or inside any elevators. So that's great for these pet transportation gigs. Okay, I thought I would show you guys our setup now that we are here at the hotel for the night. So I am driving the client's car across the country for him. They're moving. That's the majority of the people that book me for these long distance pet transportation gigs are moving. So the majority of the time I am driving their car instead of my own car. So with that, I have his crate that he had bought for the dogs to travel in the car. And then I have a couple gallon jugs of water here. I have some pee pads and cleaning supplies. And then I have the dogs' food and crates and more cleaning supplies. And then a couple other dog beds and extra blankets and towels and things like that. I also have this sign that I always bring with me on all my pet transportation gigs. Now, the only time the dogs are ever out of my sight is when I have to run into gas stations or rest stops to go to the bathroom as we're driving. And I just always like to have that sign sitting on top of the crate just to avoid any kind of issues, make sure everything is good. And on that note, I always recommend to my clients that they use a Roughland crate because they are actually crash tested. However, a lot of clients can't afford a Roughland crate because they are pretty pricey. And just as long as the dogs are in some kind of crate that's not a metal wire crate, I am good to go. Good morning, everyone. It's about 7:45 and we're out for our morning walk right now and about to get on the road. We didn't get quite as much sleep as I had hoped for last night. Like I said yesterday, our room was not very clean and there were a few flies that kept buzzing around the room all night. And it just smelled really bad and kind of everything in the room was like sticky or slimy. So we made the best of it, but we just didn't get as much sleep as I had hoped. But I'm really excited about today because we're going to be driving through Arkansas and then Oklahoma, and I think we'll make it to about Shamrock, Texas, which is about 8 hours of driving. But that's not really what I'm excited about. What I'm excited is that if everything goes to plan, we will actually be meeting up with one of my fellow transporter friends in Oklahoma City. So yesterday I told you guys that I put all of my good photo spots and where I think we will be stopping on the itinerary along with the estimate. So I thought I would just clarify and say that I do specify to the clients that this will change from day to day. This is really just an estimated, a tentative itinerary because you just never know what's going to happen on the road. You know, you're going to hit traffic, you could have bad weather, maybe the dogs aren't doing so well in the car. You just never know when you set out for these gigs. So everything is an estimate and tentative. And on that note, you know, I always get prepayment for the estimated amount. And I always estimate $150 per night for the hotel. And then I have a daily rate to cover my time and everything that I am doing. And then I also estimate for the gas and the flight to Atlanta and the flight home from California. All the other expenses are all on that document. And then I get prepayment for that estimated amount. And then the job is confirmed once they have fully paid that estimated amount. And then we settle up any differences upon delivery. I'm getting gas right now before we get on the road, and speaking of getting prepayment for the estimated amount, one thing that I do is I always take a picture of the gas pump each time I get gas. That way I can just send it to the client in real time, and they know exactly how much I'm spending on everything as we go. And I'll say that I've done enough of these gigs now where my estimates are pretty much spot on. I mean, I don't think I've been more than $50 off on an estimate in my last 5 or 10 trips. And I always estimate $150 a night for the hotel. And last night's hotel was exactly $146.87. after the $20 pet fee and the taxes and such. So that's just something that y'all will have to gain with a little bit of experience. You know, when I first started doing this, my estimates would be a couple $100 off. But now, like, I've driven enough cars across the country, I've driven enough of the different routes, I've stayed in enough of the different hotels where I pretty much know exactly how much it's going to cost to drive across the country. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I will break down some of those numbers and show you how much the average trip costs. Okay, we're now at Potty Park in Alma, Arkansas. This is such a random place. Another one of my random roadside finds. It's a little tiny town right off the interstate, only about 5,000 people here, according to Wikipedia. And I was wondering why there was a Popeye statue here, so I looked it up, and this place actually claims to be the spinach capital of the world. So I can officially say that me and Daisha and Chili, we have seen the spinach capital of the world. What do you guys think about that? I don't think they're very enthused. All right, everyone, we made it to Oklahoma City, and look who I'm with. I'm with Renee, owner of Sterling Pooch Pet Services.
Yes, hi. I'm so glad to see him. I drove all the way up here to see Doug.
She drove all the way from Fort Worth, which is like 3 hours away. I can't say thank you enough for driving to see me. We met a couple of years ago at the Texas Pet Sitters Conference. If you guys are not going to conferences, you gotta go because you meet awesome people like this. You get to make lifelong friends. That's what's up.
Yes, absolutely.
Renee is not only a fellow pet sitter, but she's also a fellow pet transporter. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
On the pet transporting side,
yeah,
I also go to drive the pets or the owners' vehicles and throughout the states, and I also do pet nanny, which is flying in cabin on airplanes from airport to airport. And yeah, I just enjoy the heck out of it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. Renee's one of the only people that I will refer to when I'm not available because she takes it really seriously. She does it the right way. And I know that she actually gives the pets the one-on-one love and attention that they need.
They deserve it.
Yes, yes. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
I just stopped and got gas at a Love's truck stop in Hinton, Texas, and I went ahead and booked a room in Shamrock, Texas while I'm stopped here. We have about an hour and 40 minutes for me to get to Shamrock. So kind of a lighter day today, but we're still ahead of schedule. So doing really good. The dogs are doing great in the car. And it was just so awesome to see Renee as I was going through Oklahoma City. I couldn't believe that she drove all the way up from Fort Worth to see me. That was amazing. But I always love getting to see other business owners and hear about how they do things and their trials and tribulations and all of that good stuff. And on that note, just a little while ago, I was telling y'all about how I do my pricing. And Renee does her pricing a little bit different, even though we offer the exact same service. So I just wanted to say that all of this different kind of stuff can be done so many different ways. And I don't want y'all to hear what I am saying and think that it is the only way to do things or even the best way to do things. You know, this is just how I currently like to do things. You know, on that note, you know, one of the differences between my service and Renee's service is I was telling her that I was a little nervous about driving an older car across the country. You know, I'm driving a 2006 Honda CRV with like 200,000 miles on it. So when I was talking to the dog's owners on our very first phone call, I suggested that he go and get it tuned up and inspected before we start the drive, just to make sure that it would make it. And he did do that, and he did actually have to get some work done on the car, and everything is fine now. But you know, conversely, Renee will only drive cars that are 2019 and newer. So she doesn't have to worry about that at all. It's just a really good example of how you can do anything you want as a business owner. And I think we can kind of forget that sometimes, that, this is our business. We can set whatever policies we want. We can do things however we want. And it's up to us. And if we aren't willing to do things the way that we want to do them, then we may as well just go work for someone else. Because, what's the point otherwise? I don't know if you've been able to see the ambulances behind me, but I walked out of the gas station, and then 2 seconds later, these two ambulances pulled up and people start rushing around, and I didn't notice anything going on inside the gas station. But they pulled up like right after I walked out, so I don't know what's going on. All right, we just got checked into the Best Western here in Shamrock, Texas, and I am so excited because it is so much nicer than where we stayed last night, and everything seems fairly clean, and it's cheaper than where we stayed last night. After the pet fee, this one came in at $135.97 for the night. So we're going to get settled in and get comfortable here, and then I have to do some work on the computer this evening. We're actually hiring right now, so I have to go through and review some of the applicants that came in and contact anyone that looks good. And then we also have our email newsletter that goes out tomorrow, and I have not put it together yet, so I have to draft and schedule it this evening. And then we'll go find some dinner somewhere. Good morning, everyone. We've had some rain this morning, so we slept in a little bit later than usual, and then the pups helped me get a little bit more work done on the computer this morning. They were so cute. As soon as they heard the rain outside, they both just got like right on top of me, and they were shaking, and they just wanted to be held and loved, and they're doing good now, though. So yesterday we drove about 600 miles in about 8 hours, and then today I think we're going to drive about 6 hours and hopefully get to a little west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And if the rain goes away, I have a couple cool stops for us today, but if the rain does not go away, then we'll drive a little bit further. We've only been on the road about 45 minutes, but I just saw this huge cross off the side of the road, and we just got out of the rain, so it was a perfect opportunity to get the dogs out and walk around. And we'll be in Amarillo, Texas here in about 45 more minutes. We just stopped at the Cadillac Ranch here on the west side of Amarillo, Texas, and it's a really cool place. This place always gets a lot of hype on Instagram and on social media, and I have to say, this is my second time here, and I think it's a little overrated. Like, it's cool, and the dogs enjoyed getting to walk around, and we got some cool pictures and everything, but it's definitely a little overrated from what you see on social media. While we're stopped here, I thought I would quickly run you guys through some of the requirements that are needed to become a pet transporter. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to become an actual business. You're going to need to get your LLC. I've made a couple other videos in the past about the differences between DBA and LLC and how to become an LLC. I can link those videos down in the description below. And then once you are a legal business, then you're going to need to get liability insurance. Now, becoming a business is really quick and easy and cheap. And then the liability insurance is kind of the exact opposite of that. This is where the money is really going to add up depending on what kind of insurance you need. And I can tell you that, I've been in business for 10 years now as a pet sitter and dog walker, and I've always had liability insurance for my pet sitting and dog walking services, of course. But when I started offering these long distance transportation services about 3 or 4 years ago, my normal pet sitting and dog walking insurance would not cover these long distance transport gigs. So then I had to call around and start getting quotes from different insurance providers. And the fact that I am driving clients' cars instead of my own car really made getting insurance a little bit more difficult. I eventually was able to get insurance through Pet Care Insurance, PCI. So just keep that in mind, that if you want to do this, like, you're going to need to save up a little bit and make sure you have the proper insurance, and that your normal pet sitting and dog walking insurance probably will not cover this. So then after you have your insurance, you are then going to want to get your Class T registration through the USDA. Anyone that is getting paid to transport animals is supposed to have this Class T registration, and it is super easy to get. I mean, it's just like a quick form that you fill out online, and it's a free form. You don't even have to pay a filing fee or anything. I will put the link to that form down in the description below. I got my letter in the mail saying that my registration was approved. I think about 3 or 4 weeks after I had submitted the form. You do have to renew it every so often, and to maintain this Class T registration, they do have some requirements that you are supposed to follow, just concerning about how you are transporting the animals. So be sure to read through their requirements and make sure you understand everything. But you're going to have to kind of use your best sense and make your own judgment calls on how you are going to follow those requirements. That's really about it, though. I mean, other than getting your business license, getting your liability insurance, and getting that Class T registration, everything else, it's just really about finding the clients, learning how to do your pricing, and making sure that you have the proper supplies to take along with you. So we'll talk about supplies here at our next stop. We're at Loma del Rey Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico right now, which means that we are like 2 blocks down from Walter White's house. Anybody that knows me knows that Breaking Bad is like my favorite show of all time. So I always stop and see Walter White's house anytime I'm driving through Albuquerque. And you guys saw me at this park when I drove those poodles from Texas to Canada last year. So if you missed that video, I'll link that one in the description below. It's just a really beautiful park. It's really peaceful and just a great place to walk the dogs and keep them in the shade while we're walking. And I was originally planning on staying in Albuquerque this evening, but you know, we're ahead of schedule. We're feeling good. The dogs are doing great in the car. So we're gonna keep on trucking it probably at least another hour, probably a couple more hours today before we stop for the evening. While we're stopped here, let's talk about the supplies that you will need for long-distance pet transportation. So, of course, the first thing you're going to need is a reliable vehicle. Whether that's the client's car or your own car or a rental car. I've done all 3 of the above before, but you just want to make sure it's reliable. And then, of course, you're going to need the crate. We already talked about the crate situation earlier. And then I always send my clients a list of the exact supplies that I would like them to have ready for me when I arrive to transport the dogs. On this list, I always have 2-gallon jugs of water per dog that I am transporting. Of course, I want any food and medicine and treats that the dogs will need. And I always like to have it pre-portioned out per meal. That way I don't have to worry about carrying a huge bag of food into the hotel or anything like that. And really, it's just one more thing that I don't have to think about and worry about while we're on the road. You know, there's so many variables that you have to keep track of, and you really have to stay on your toes and keep your eyes and ears open when you're doing things like this. So as many things as you can do ahead of time to prep, such as pre-portioning out the food, that's just one less thing that you have to worry about while you're on the road. And then, of course, you will need the dog's bowls, food bowls and water bowls. You're going to need poo bags. And on the subject of treats, you know, you want whatever treats the dogs are used to having at home, but you also want to have some very high value treats as well. So, you know, I use dehydrated beef liver when I'm out walking dogs at home. So I always bring some of that with me in a Ziploc bag So most dogs will do pretty much anything for those treats, and you just want to be always prepared to be able to get the dog's attention when you need it. I also always carry a little can of pet corrector with me, just in case we encounter any off-leash dogs that are not friendly while we're at rest stops or at parks like this. I also like them to have a blanket or a bed or something like that that smells like home. That way they can have that in the car to stay comfortable. And then we can also take that into the hotels, so they just feel a little bit more comfortable there as well. I always require that the dogs wear snug, really tight-fitting harnesses that they cannot escape from. And I have a couple different options that I can send clients if they're not sure of what kind of harness to buy. And then I always want a 4-foot leash. I prefer a dual-handled leash, but never a retractable leash or anything longer than 4 feet. You're also going to need the dog's vaccination records and their most recent vet records. You know, most hotels don't ask for that stuff, but I have had some hotels ask, so I just always like to have it just in case. You're also going to need to make sure you have a couple of emergency contacts. So not just the client's information, but if the client is not able to be contacted in case of an emergency, you need to know who to contact when time is of the essence. And I also, of course, have all pet sitting and dog walking and pet transportation clients sign a contract. And not only do I have the digital version of that signed contract ready and available on my phone, but I also print it out and have the printed physical version with me at all times also. And then I also always bring a magnetic phone holder to have in the car with me. And I also bring a Bluetooth transmitter for my phone that fits into the cigarette lighter. Because you just never know when you're showing up to drive clients' cars if they will have a phone holder, if they'll have the proper phone charger, or even if their car will have Bluetooth or not. And like the car that I'm driving right now is a perfect example of, it's a 2006, it doesn't even have Bluetooth. And being able to listen to audiobooks and good podcasts is really what gets me through the day, you know, when I'm driving long hours. So having brought my Bluetooth transmitter makes that possible. Speaking of things that I bring from home like that, I also always bring a gallon-size bag of snacks so that I don't have to buy so much food on the road. I also bring a refillable water bottle, and I pack pretty light as far as my clothes go. And then I also always like to have a first aid kit. You know, I ask the client if they have a first aid kit in their car, and then if they don't, I bring my own with me. A lot of the work that I do, whether it's as a pet sitter or a dog walker or a pet transporter, it's always about thinking about the worst thing that could possibly happen and planning ahead for that. You know, what can I do to avoid those things from happening? And then what can I do to make sure I am set up for success should those things happen? You know, and the first aid kit is the perfect example of that. I've been a full-time professional pet sitter for going on 11 years. I've been doing this long-distance transportation for 3 or 4 years. And knock on wood, I have never had to use the first aid kit. But I always make sure I have it with me just in case. Okay, so it's about 6:30 p.m. and I am in Gallup, Texas, and I have a bit of a new situation that I've never dealt with before. I was planning on staying in Gallup tonight, but I had not booked a room yet, and I was going to stop like on the east side of Gallup and book a room, and I didn't have any cell service as I was coming into town. And I even got to the downtown exit, and I still didn't have any cell service. So I got off on this exit because it had like a whole bunch of stores on the sign. So I figured like, surely I should have cell service here. I mean, there's like a Panda Express, there's a Home Depot, like major stores. So I should have service. So I turned my phone off and back on. I looked at the cellular settings and still no service. And I looked over and I saw this T-Mobile store. So I came over here. I have T-Mobile. So I went in the store and I was like, I mean, there's a store here, but I don't have service. Like, what's going on? And they said, apparently there was a major car accident just a little while ago, and a like fiber optic cable was severed in the car accident. So there's like no cell service for any of like the major carriers that relied on that fiber optic cable for like the whole area. And they said that they have no idea when it'll be back up, but it probably won't be until like late tonight or early tomorrow morning. But meanwhile, like I have to stop somewhere and have a place to stay, and I have to have cell service. And they said the next major town with a hotel isn't until Flagstaff, Arizona, which is another 2.5 hours west of here. And like, I do not want to drive another 2.5 hours. I think that'll put us at, I don't know, close to 11 hours of driving for the day, but I don't really have any other option at this point. I kind of have to. So I mentioned earlier in this video that you kind of have to plan for the unexpected and roll with the punches and make sure your clients know that your schedule is tentative. And this is a perfect example of that. So I will check in with you guys when I figure out where we're staying for the night. I guess that will be in Flagstaff. I got cell service back about 30 minutes west of Gallup. And as soon as I got cell service back, I pulled over and I figured out that there's a little town called Holbrook in Arizona between Gallup and Flagstaff. So we were able to get a room at a Days Inn here. Which means we really only had to do about 45 more minutes of driving. We did not have to do the whole 2 hours to Flagstaff. So I'm really happy about that. This Days Inn seems pretty clean and it was cheap. We're enjoying a nice sunset here and the dogs are eating dinner right now. And I think this was just a perfect example of why you really need to know your route. And study your map ahead of time. Because when I had no cell service, I had no GPS and I couldn't load the map on my phone. But luckily I knew that I'm just staying on I-40 West all day today. So I knew if I got off the interstate, I just had to be able to find my way back to I-40. So there was no big issues there. And then on top of that, I always have an emergency plan, should something go wrong. So I am sharing my location to my boyfriend and 2 of my other friends at all times. And I check in with my boyfriend, off and on throughout the whole day. I check in with my mom at least once a day and, blah, blah, blah. So they know that if they haven't heard from me within a few hours, they can pull up the location on my phone and just make sure that everything is okay. And on that note of emergency planning, I also have the highest level of AAA. Knock on wood, I've never had to use it, but like I said earlier, it's always about thinking about the worst thing that could happen and planning ahead for that. And, when I lost cell service, I got really anxious, because I've got like the client checking in with me. I need to have the maps. I have my whole business operating with 30 employees out in the field, so I need to be able to answer their phone calls. And the relief that I felt when I got service back, I just can't even put that relief into words. It felt so good. But I will check in with you guys again in the morning. Good morning, everyone. We got some good sleep here in Holbrook, Arizona last night. And me and Daisha were just sitting here thinking about the fact that we are over half a day ahead of schedule now. So I was going to have to wait around like pretty much all day after delivering the dogs tomorrow for my flight back home. So I just got on the computer and I spent a little while changing my flights around. And luckily I was able to get a much earlier flight back to Jacksonville tomorrow. And I just wanted to say that this is a perfect example of why you should always get the insurance on your flights when you're doing these long distance pet transportation gigs. I never get the flight insurance when I'm just flying personally. But when I'm doing these gigs, you just never know how far ahead of schedule or how far behind schedule you may get. So I always buy the flight insurance to make sure I'm able to make any of these last minute adjustments as needed. So at this point, we've talked about requirements, we've talked about how to do your pricing, we've talked about the supplies that you will need, we've talked about emergency planning, and a lot of other things. So today, we are going to talk about how to actually get your pet transportation clients. But first, we have to go check out of the hotel, and then we're going to go stand on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. Okay, we are not off to a good start today. I was in the McDonald's drive-thru getting my morning coffee, and the check engine light came on. And luckily, the McDonald's was right in an O'Reilly's parking lot. So I went into the O'Reilly's and asked them to check the engine code, and it's code P1009, which means that there is oil sludge buildup clogging the oil screen and or the actuator. Whatever that means. I'm not a car guy. I mean, right over my head. I have no idea what that means. But Holbrook is like a little tiny town, and this is like the only O'Reilly's here, and there's only like one or two shops that are even open today. So I called the one shop that they recommended. They knew what part I would need, but this O'Reilly's does not have the part. The part is like over 30 minutes away in the next little town over. And they don't think they can get the part here today. So I'm about to drive the car over to this shop so they can look at it and we can sort out the best next steps. I was worried about driving a car with 200,000 miles across the country, and I guess I had good reason to be worried. And I will check in with you guys when I know what's gonna happen next. Okay, I don't want to speak too preemptively here, but I am feeling really good right now. I took it to the shop, they looked it over, they ran some more tests and everything, and they basically explained what this part is that went bad and why it went bad and everything else. It's way over my head. Like I said, I'm not a car guy, but basically I can keep driving. It's just going to affect the gas mileage, and it's going to affect my power as I'm going up hills. So I may have to kind of pull over to the side of the road and go slowly up any steep hills. But other than that, I should be able to make it all the way to California and deliver the dogs with no issues. The guy at the shop was so nice. He didn't even charge me for the time or anything. So major shout out to Vaughn at Wilkinson Auto and Tire here in Holbrook, Arizona. I'm going to leave a 5-star Google review when I get to a hotel this evening. He was super nice. He really did a good job at explaining everything to me. So I'm just super appreciative. And then there's an O'Reilly's in Winslow, Arizona that has the part that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and stop at that O'Reilly's and buy the part. That way, just in case, if anything happens, I can just pull into a shop and I've already got the part on me and I don't have to worry about tracking down the part or anything like that. So we're getting back on the road now, and I'll be stopping in Winslow, Arizona to get that part and stand on that corner here in about 45 minutes. All right, we're standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. Okay, so we bought the new solenoid at O'Reilly's. It was $120, and I don't know how to change it myself, but I figured it would be good just to have it in the car, just in case worse comes to worse. That way I don't have to worry about them not having it again, like this morning. And then we went and walked around downtown Winslow, got our picture standing on the corner there, and we're getting back on I-40 heading west now. So as you're leaving Winslow, Arizona, there's a big meteor crater out here, and I got off the interstate and I drove like 8 miles out here to see it, and then they're charging you to be able to see it, and I'm just not willing to pay $29 to see a big hole in the ground. I'm sure it's cool, but like I don't know if you guys can see, but like this is the outside lip of it, and so I can say I've seen it. It's good enough. But I'm just kind of taking a moment to just really be grateful for the fact that this morning turned out the way that it did. You know, when that check engine light came on, my mind immediately went to the worst, you know, and it could have been so much worse. The fact that we are on the road right now and we're rolling is amazing, and it's just so important to remind yourself to kind of hit the pause button and be grateful when things like this, when things work out like this. Speaking of being grateful, I thought this would be a good time to tell you guys about how I got started doing long distance pet transportation and how I got my very first long distance client. So you guys know that I've been a full-time professional pet sitter and dog walker for many years. And about 4 years ago, one of my midday dog walking clients called me and said, "Hey, I have a vacation home in Montana. I go out there every summer, but my dog does not like to fly. He's very used to you. You guys have a great relationship. So why don't you drive him out there so he can spend the summer with me?" And I remember like laughing on the phone and just thinking, you want me to like go on a road trip with your dog? Like, what? This can't be for real. This can't be for real. I had never heard of anyone getting paid to drive a dog around. I mean, it was just a completely new idea to me. But she was not joking, and I did it. You know, I had no idea what I was doing. I had taken a couple long distance road trips on my own. You know, I'm an avid traveler outside of what I do with animals. So I knew the gist of like traveling with a dog and going on road trips and stuff. But I really did not understand the professional and the business side of things. I did not have the proper insurance. I did not have the Class T registration. I did not have the proper supplies. But it went really well, you know, and I had a great time driving Gus that summer. And I've driven Gus every summer since then. And I will actually be driving Gus again in just a couple of weeks. So be sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on that vlog coming out in just a couple of weeks. But that's how I got my very first transport client. You know, it was just sheer luck. I remember telling everyone that I had accepted this gig to drive one of my dog walking clients across the country. And at the time, everyone that I told was just like, "Why would you do that? That sounds awful. You couldn't pay me enough to do that." And meanwhile, I was sitting there like, are you kidding? Like, I'm getting paid to go on a cross-country road trip with a dog. Like, what's better than that? I'm basically getting paid to go on vacation. Now, this is not really a vacation. It is work, you know, it is a business, but like, it really doesn't get better than this to me. Like, I'm getting paid to travel with dogs. I'm getting to see the world. I'm getting to experience new places and new things and learn new things. I'm getting to build awesome relationships with these dogs. I'm getting to give them the opportunity of a lifetime. Is how many dogs get to go stand on the corner in Winslow, Arizona and go see a meteor crater and, you know, all these random things that I'm taking these dogs to do. Like, it's an experience for them, not just for me. And that just makes me so happy, you know? And as soon as I dropped Gus off on that very first transport gig a few years ago, I remember calling my boyfriend and just saying, I have to figure out how to do more of these. I want to do more of this. So at our next stop, I will tell you about how I made that happen and how I got more clients after that. We're at a rest stop in Yucca, Arizona, so we are almost to the California state line. It is 104 degrees here right now. I don't know when you guys are watching this, but it's May 31st, 2024. Yeah, 104 degrees. So the dogs and I are getting a little walk in. The car has been running totally fine, and when I just got back in here at the rest stop and turned her back on, the check engine light is off now. So it's been on all day, but it is off now, and who knows what's going on then? I don't know, but at least we had it checked out. We have the part in the car should we need it, and we're just gonna keep on trucking. Before I pull off here, I was gonna say I'm sure you guys have noticed that I have only been taking the dogs out at rest stops and at nice parks and at the hotel. You know, I am not taking them out to potty and walk at busy gas stations. Mainly because Daisha is kind of anxious around just weird noises and new places. She's just kind of anxious in general, and taking her out a gas station would be sure to raise her anxiety level, and I never want to do that to a pet. Chili is fine. I don't think he minds the noises or anything at all. That's one reason that I do that. The other reason is that you know, there's going to be a lot more other dogs and strange people and all that kind of stuff, and I just really don't want to have to deal with other dogs and people coming up and asking me about them and everything. So I try to find slower, more peaceful places that we don't have to deal with those worries. And you know, a lot of truck stops, like Love's truck stops, they will have like the little fenced in dog park area. And I really try to avoid those because you never know if the other dogs in those areas are going to be friendly or not. You never know if they're up to date on their vaccinations or not. And even if there is not another dog in there, you have no idea what kind of diseases could be living in the soil. You know, like Giardia can live in standing water and in the soil for a while. And if another dog brings that disease in there, and then you take your dogs in there, you're just asking for contamination. And as I have said many, many times in this video, everything that I do is about thinking about the worst case scenario and figuring out how we can avoid that. All right, we just got checked into a Best Western Plus here in Bakersfield, California. And I got a free upgrade to a King Executive Suite. So not a bad way to finish off our last night on the road. The dogs are very happy to be out of the car. And even with all of the mishaps and everything today, you know, we still got about 600 miles of driving in. So we're still doing pretty good. And then tomorrow we will get the dogs delivered, and then we've got our flight home. Good morning, everyone. It's about 6:30 in the morning, and we had a great night of sleep here at the Best Western in Bakersfield, California. And the babies and I are about to get on our road for our last 300 miles. We'll have them delivered here in just a couple of hours, and then we have our flight out of San Jose at 12:40. I gotta say, these Best Western Pluses have been great on this trip and on my last long-distance pet transport gig, which is like kind of wild because just a few years ago when I started doing these trips, you couldn't have paid me to stay in most Best Westerns. You can just really tell that a lot of them have been renovated and then they're really trying to do better. And that's something that I notice like with Comfort Inn and La Quintas and several of the other brands that I typically stay in is some of them are reinvesting and trying to do better while others are not. And it really shows when I'm doing these trips like this. And I don't know, I was just thinking it would be really cool to do like some hotel review videos and maybe even some like travel style vlog showing you like the little towns that I'm stopping in and stuff like that. I try to do that a little bit in these videos, but it's hard to do a whole lot of that while talking about like the actual business side of things. So if you'd like to see some content like that, drop a comment down below and let me know. Okay guys, the clients met me at the airport a few minutes ago and I delivered the car and Daisha and Chili to them. I was honestly really sad to say bye to Daisha and Chili. You know, I really just fell in love with them over the last few days coming across the country. They're such good dogs, and I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to take them on this cross-country adventure. And I'm at the airport now, waiting on my flight. I have just a few minutes before we board, and then I head to Denver, and then I should land back home in Jacksonville about midnight tonight. And when we get home tomorrow, I will run you guys through the numbers as I promised earlier in this video, and I'll talk to you some more about how I get clients. After a couple of flight delays, I got back to Jacksonville about midnight last night, and I got reunited with my baby boy Turkey Bird here. And I was going to tell you guys that the way that I got this client for this pet transportation gig was actually from a referral from another pet sitting business that I have met over the years, and I've connected with them on Facebook. We follow each other, and that's where a lot of these gigs come from. Pretty much every one of the long-distance pet transportation gigs that I've done the last few years has been word of mouth and referrals. You know, as soon as I did that very first one that I was telling you guys with Gus a few years ago, I just started putting it all over my Facebook and my Instagram, on both my personal page and on the Bad to the Bone business page, that I was offering this service. And every gig that I do, I publicize it. And that just gets people to know about the service, they share the post, and spread the word. And then from there, there are actually some Facebook groups that you can request to join that are for people needing pet transportation. And I've done a couple of gigs that came from post within these groups. Typically, the posts that are in these groups won't pay quite as high as someone that was directly referred to me. But I will put on the screen right now some of my favorite Facebook groups so that you guys can go find some gigs for yourself. And then something else that I do on top of just making sure that I'm getting the referrals and the word of mouth spreading is I have it listed as a service on our website. And I work with a lady, Marketing Solutions, Erica. If you guys need somebody to help with your website, I highly recommend her. Tell Erica that Doug sent you. And she built my website, and I have this listed as a service on there. And the SEO has gotten me a couple people that have found me just from Google and contacted me directly on the website there as well. So I told you guys I would tell you how I get my clients. That is how I get them. I also told you guys that if you stuck around to the very end of the video that I would run you through the actual numbers from this pet transport. So on hotels, we spent a grand total of $544.30. That is including taxes and all of the pet fees. For gas, we only spent $229.44. This is a big misconception I hear a lot of people say just when they're talking about road tripping and going on long distance drives in general, is they always think that the gas is going to be the most expensive thing. And even when I drive like big gas guzzlers, this car that I just drove got really good gas mileage, but even when I drive cars that don't get good gas mileage, the gas is never my biggest expense. You know, it's always hotels and excursions, other things that we're doing. For the flights, the flight from Jacksonville to Atlanta to pick up the dogs, and then the flight home from San Jose was a total of $650.41, which brought the total expense for this trip to $1,666.03. So that's how much it is going to cost you to drive across the country. And then whatever you need to make profit for your time and your expertise and everything that you're doing is going to have to be added on top of that. You know, and like I said earlier, I charge a daily rate. Some people charge per mile. There's different ways to go about it. But the expenses were $1,666.03, and then your time has to be added on top of that. I hope this video has been helpful and entertaining for you guys. Make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss out on Cole and I's journey across the country to Montana with Gus here in just a couple of weeks. There he is right there with King, and we're reminding you to stay positive.